Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome to my channel. If you enjoy watching our videos, then do like and subscribe to our channel. Also, don't forget to mention which part of the video you like the most in the comments. So without much delay, let's start the video. As planned, she found herself placed on the Uchiha's team, granting her the access she would need. That was the upside. The downside, however, was her other teammate. Despite years of effort, she had been unable to avoid being placed on his team. The family would be very upset when she told them, and she had put off going home until the night had grown so cold and dark that she had no choice but to face them. Stepping through the front door and kicking off her sandals, she wasn't surprised that they hadn't even noticed she wasn't home. Entering the kitchen, she discovered some leftover food in the refrigerator, which she devoured as quickly as she could before someone could stop her. It was rare that they left so much, and she was determined to make the most of it. Drinking milk straight from the carton, she felt full for the first time in weeks. Wiping the milk from her lips, she closed the refrigerator door and brushed off any imaginary dirt from her dress before stepping out of the kitchen to confront her family. The short walk down the hallway to the family room was too quick as she found herself in front of the whole family, who had turned their heads as soon as her silent footsteps entered the room. "Father, Mother, I have news. I have been placed on the Uchiha's teams," she said, holding her breath as she waited for the response. "Good, the plan is finally moving forward. Soon, we will have what we need to restore our clan," said her father, taking a long pull on the pipe in his hand. The scent of tobacco and herbs filled the air, making her head spin as he blew the smoke in her direction. "What are you not telling us? I know you, girl. I can see your lies from here," said grandmother, pointing her blind eyes in her direction. Using a long, bony finger, she aimed it at her chest, causing her to take a half step back to avoid being poked even from across the room. "The other teammate, who is it?" asked her mother, setting down her knitting without looking at her. She never really looked at her, not since what happened to Momoka. "As we planned, the top two students, male and female, are on the same team, and the third is the last passing student," said Sakura, hoping against hope they would drop the subject. "It must be hard to be around that smelly dog boy," remarked her mother, returning to her knitting. "Lie. I smell a lie." "Who is it, girl?" yelled her grandmother, reaching out to grab her arm, but the old woman was slow, and she was fast, at least compared to her, as she stepped back out of reach. Clearing her throat, she held her hands in front of her, one to look submissive and the other to stop them from shaking. "It is the Uzumaki. He somehow passed this year," she said, bracing for the blow she knew would come. As her father's backhand landed on her face, she fell back into the doorframe, managing to avoid falling to the floor this time. She had learned long ago to endure it. The one time she had fought back, it had ended badly, very badly. "How could you allow that creature on your team?" growled her father, settling back down after retrieving the fallen pipe. He packed it with herbs this time, seeking to calm his nerves before doing something that could jeopardize their plans. "I tried to get him off the team. I did, but the sensei insisted that a team must have 3 members, or we'd all have to start over," she explained, refraining from wiping the blood from her broken lip, knowing it might provoke him further. She would deal with it later. For now, the sight of blood seemed to discourage her father from more violence. "There will be missions, a slip here, a small trap there, even a sound to alert an enemy is all it takes," said her mother, not missing a stitch in her knitting as she listed the many methods she had to employ to eliminate obstacles to the plan before the seal had been placed on them. "Still, she will be influenced by that creature," said her father, taking a long pull on his pipe and holding it in before blowing the smoke in her direction once again. It took all her willpower to stop from coughing as the smoke surrounded her. The sound of a drop of blood hitting the floor broke the extended silence, causing her mother to pause in her knitting. "Clear that up and go to your room. Make sure to wear a clean dress in the morning." Hastily, she wiped the blood from the floor with the edge of her shirt, careful not to draw any more attention. With her head bowed, she made her way to her room, the image of her father's scowling face still vivid in her mind. As she reached her bedroom, she closed the door behind her and fell face first onto her bed, the springs creaking in protest. The pain in her lip began to throb, reminding her that she needed to deal with it. Gingerly touching the tender skin, she winced at the contact, knowing she would need to clean and dress the wound. Still, she will be influenced by that creature, her father had said. This made her think about the orange-loving boy. He was a lot of things, but a creature, that was a strange thing to call someone. Her eyes focused on the small mirror on her desk, and she noticed the dirt on her dress and the bits of forest in her hair. The test with that one-eyed sensei had been harder than she expected. With a sigh, she pushed herself into action and headed to the bathroom. Stripping off her stained clothes, she turned on the shower and let the warm water wash away the grime of the day, taking care to make sure all of the leaves and twigs were washed out of her hair. After what felt like an eternity, she emerged, feeling somewhat better. Gingerly applying cream to her lip, she winced at the sting but persisted, knowing she had to look presentable in the morning now that she had a chance to get Sasuke to look at her without any competition. With a fresh night dress in hand, she slipped it on, the fabric cool against her skin. Feeling a sense of exhaustion wash over her, she collapses back onto her bed, hoping for a night free from her family. "You should have seen it," yelled out Naruto as he jumped into his favorite seat at the ramen bar. "I was making clones, kicking and punching. It was the best fight ever, and at the end, that bastard Kakashi said, I didn't pass." "Really now," said old man Ichiraku as he placed the first of many bowls in front of his best customer. "You really? But then he tied me up to this training pole and said I couldn't eat. Can you believe it? Me. Not eating. I thought my stomach was going to burn a hole in my gut. Then the strangest thing happened. Sasuke gave me some of his food, and then so did Sakura," continued Naruto as he pushed the noodles into his mouth as fast as he could before drinking down every last drop and holding out the bowl for more. "So you did pass?" asked Ayam as she took the bowl from his hands and put it on the pile to be washed later before handing him his next bowl. "Databayo," Kakashi said it was all a test of teamwork, and we passed, yelled out Naruto before giving his bowl his full attention. "Then you were on Team Kakashi," said Ichiraku, paying more attention to the noodle pot than Naruto. No, Team 7. It's me and Sasuke with Sakura," said Naruto, dripping noodles on the counter as he talked with his mouth full. "Isn't that the girl you like?" said Ayam, always one to keep up with the gossip. Naruto paused in his noodle shoveling and looked up at the girl behind the counter before saying, "I guess, now that I am a real ninja, maybe someone else will talk to me." "It's you that has to talk to the girls first. Be a man and step up," said the old man, stirring the pot, hiding in the steam so Naruto didn't see the grin. Naruto looked back down at his noodles before draining this bowl and grabbing the next. The old man was right, but every time he tried to talk to someone new, he was chased away or ignored. For some reason, Sakura was the only one who reacted to him, maybe not in the best way, but he would rather be hit by a girl than totally ignored. It means she likes him, right? Finishing his 10th bowl, he jumped to his feet and started to head home. It was only a few blocks away, but the last time he walked down the main street to his apartment, he was attacked 3 times. Taking an alley and then a cross street, he made his way following the shadows as best he could until an hour later he made his way up the backstairs of his building to his graffiti-covered door. Walking into his apartment, he kicked the instant ramen cups out of his way and made it to the bathroom for a cold shower. He was relieved that the water was working today, as getting thrown into a river and then kicked around in the dirt for an hour had filled not only his clothes with dirt but also his skin was covered in dried mud in places he didn't want to think about. Clean and dry, he dropped his orange tracksuit onto the pile with a dozen others. For some reason, that shopkeeper had given him his whole inventory when he found Naruto looking in the dumpster for something to wear. He figured if he wore a different one every week, he wouldn't have to do laundry for a year. Dropping into bed and putting on his nightshirt and cap, he lay there staring at the ceiling. He was one step closer to his dream. Who knows, maybe he will become Hokage sooner than he expected. The little voice in the back of his head was laughing and telling him to dream big or not at all, and for once, he was going to listen. Waking bright and early, I jumped out of bed, quickly slurped down a bowl of instant ramen, and dashed out of my apartment. I raced as fast as I could, zipping up my jacket as I ran to the bridge where the team was set to meet. The sun was just beginning to light up the sky as I halted in the middle of the bridge, unable to contain my grin. This was going to be the greatest day. The crisp morning air filled my lungs as I stretched my arms wide. I could feel the energy bubbling within me. I couldn't wait for the day to start. With the bridge beneath my feet and the city slowly coming to life around me, I couldn't help but let out a laugh. My teammates might think I was just being my usual self, but deep down, I knew it was more than that. As I stood there, the faint rustling of the trees and the distant sounds of the waking village provided sounds to the morning. The soft hues of pink and orange painted across the sky seemed to mirror the growing warmth in my chest. I closed my eyes for a moment, taking in the serenity of the early morning, relishing the brief moment before the day began. When I opened my eyes, my grin widened. I couldn't wait to show my team what I was made of, to prove that I had what it takes to be the greatest ninja this village had ever seen. Today was the beginning of something I had waited for my whole life, and I was ready to show them I wasn't the dead last. No, I was Naruto Uzumaki, the future Hokage. Waking up in pain, my face still stinging from my father's blow, I groaned as I dragged myself out of bed. Every movement sent waves of discomfort through my body, a stark reminder of the harsh reality that was my life. Finding my way into the shower, I simply let the hot water pummel my skin, much like the ceaseless pressure from my family that seemed to never relent. It was as if their expectations weighed upon me like a burden too heavy to bear. Drying myself off, I winced as I dressed, careful not to aggravate any of the tender spots on my body. Sitting at my desk, I worked on applying makeup, trying my best to conceal the growing evidence of the bruise on my face and lip. With each stroke of the brush, I felt a sense of resignation settling within me, a bitter acceptance of the harsh reality. This was my life, and I had only the single purpose given to me by my family. Glancing out the window, I noticed that the sun was already breaking over the village walls. With a heavy heart, I made every effort to move silently as I walked down the stairs and quickly slipped out the front door, my sandals clutched tightly in my hand. Pausing to put them on, I made a brief stop at a local convenience store to buy some food before heading to the meeting location Kakashi had instructed us to gather at. I knew deep down that today was going to be a long and painful day, one that I would have to endure with every ounce of strength I could muster. Reaching the bridge, I spotted Naruto bouncing around, his animated gestures accompanied by excited chatter as he talked to Sasuke, who didn't bother to move a muscle as he leaned indifferently against the railing. The stark contrast between the two boys was palpable. One was a ball of seemingly boundless energy, while the other exuded a quiet hatred for the world around him, only looking for a moment to let it all out in a fit of rage. This was my new reality. I knew the path laid out before me, the silent expectations that loomed heavily as my family expects perfection. I was meant to play a role in a carefully crafted plan, a plan that dictated one of these boys would be a partner in the journey ahead, while the other represented a threat, an obstacle that needed to be removed as quickly as possible. It was a balance I had to maintain, one that demanded a delicate dance between trust and animosity. As I approached the boys, I couldn't shake the sense of unease that settled deep within my chest. Every step had to be calculated, each word chosen, every action done with a purpose. They were my teammates, and yet, they were also pieces in a game, one that I had no choice but to play. With a forced smile and a cheerful, "Good morning, Sasuke-kun," I prepared myself for the day ahead. This life that fate had thrust upon me was not of my choosing, and I hated every minute of it. Kakashi sat in the tree high above the little stream and walking bridge. The park was one of his favorite locations in the village, near the memorial stone but secluded from the normal pathways of the villagers. It was small, quiet, and isolated from prying eyes, the perfect place for a new team to meet, talk, and plan the day. At least, that's what he told everyone else. The truth was, it was close to his home, so he didn't have to walk far. His team was a mess, the Jinchuriki, the last Uchiha, and the only remaining Harumo still allowed to roam the village freely. Of them all, she was the wild card, and the Hokage had stressed that point over and over in the team assignment meeting. Training a Harumo was like playing with fire blindfolded, covered in oil, and dancing on a tightrope. It could be done, but was it really worth it? He had been in the tree for the last hour, watching the team's interaction. Naruto had been the first to arrive, full of energy, wandering around the bridge as if he had never seen water before. Then Sasuke arrived, acting his normal somber self, taking a station at the center of the bridge as if to claim it. He was soon the center of Naruto's attention. Under the endless barrage of chatter, he only blinked at Naruto, and in a fit of frustration, Naruto stood nose to nose with him, as if daring Sasuke to do something. In the middle of this standoff, Sakura walked over as quietly as a mouse, not even knowing just how stealthy she was. The boys didn't even notice her until she was within arm's reach. Her presence broke the staring match, and she soon became the focus of Naruto's attention. "Sakura-chan," yelled out Naruto, "are you ready to learn some cool jutsu? Do you think Kakashi-sensei will teach that flash step jutsu? It's so cool." And Sakura looked over at Naruto and his endless stream of questions. The boy was nothing but a ball of barely controlled chakra that she could feel hovering around her. With a practiced glare and a quick right hook, she sent him flying into the stream below. "Leave my Sasuke-kun alone, you loser," she yelled, putting as much effort into the show as possible. Sasuke maintained his distant and reserved demeanor, but did turn to look at Sakura, saying, "Leave me alone." Loser. He added a little more emotion to the loser, as if to place her in the same category as Naruto as he walked off the bridge and found a shaded location under a tree. Naruto burst out of the water and charged up to Sakura. She half expected him to hit her, like every other man in her life, but he just stood there grinning. "You're so strong, Sakura-chan. We should train together, and then do you want to go out on a date with me?" "I would never date someone like you," she said, marching off to stand near Sasuke, not knowing that the act of just talking to Naruto was all he really needed to feel she was the one. The only person to really talk to him in the whole village, and these small interactions pulled him to her like a moth to a flame. Moving to join his team, Naruto was unfazed by Sakura as he said, "Where's Kakashi-sensei? Shouldn't he be here by now?" Sasuke looked at Naruto with his coal-black eyes for a second, as if measuring him before speaking for the first time this morning. He is known by many names, but the one that everyone agreed on was always late Kakashi, so find a spot and be quiet. "How do you know he is always late?" asked Sakura, for once dropping the fangirl act. "I am the last Uchiha. Do you think I would not ask about the one that was assigned to teach me?" responded Sasuke again, avoiding looking at her. As they waited for Kakashi, the minutes stretched into an hour, and Naruto found it increasingly challenging to remain quiet. He fidgeted, tapped his foot, and occasionally threw pebbles into the stream to alleviate the boredom. Sasuke remained stoic, seemingly unaffected by the passage of time. Sakura, on the other hand, grew more and more impatient. She began pacing back and forth, shooting irritated glances at Naruto, who couldn't sit still. Finally, a figure approached from a distance, hands in his pockets and face obscured by a mask. Kakashi Hatake, their Jonin sensei, arrived on the scene. Naruto jumped to his feet, unable to contain his excitement. "Hey, Kakashi-sensei, you're late. What took you so long?" Naruto exclaimed, his impatience evident in his voice. Kakashi glanced at his wristwatch. "Oh, were you guys waiting for me? My, how troublesome. Well, let's get started, shall we?" Naruto's enthusiasm was contagious, and despite Sasuke maintaining his usual cold demeanor, there was a flicker of anticipation in his dark eyes. Sakura, though still annoyed, couldn't help but feel a spark of anger at their sensei. This was not part of the plan. The day was just beginning, and for Team 7, the journey into the world of ninjutsu and teamwork was about to unfold under the guidance of their always-late sensei. "What's the plan, sensei?" Sakura asked, finding her place at the center of the team. Naruto and Sasuke moved to join her. "We'll start with something fundamental. Your biggest weakness is teamwork. Follow me to the Hokage's tower. We'll pick up some D-rank missions for the day and start training on teamwork," Kakashi stated, strolling across the bridge at his usual leisurely pace. There was no need to hurry. It was going to be a long day. "Mission!" Naruto exclaimed, rushing to Kakashi's side. "How about something epic, like rescuing the daimyo's daughter from bandits or hunting down a thief?" "D-rank? Dope. Those are A-rank missions." Sakura couldn't resist interjecting. Hey, Sakura-chan, don't call me a dope. Who cares about rank? We'll make it legendary." Naruto replied, undeterred by her words. Sasuke remained silent, walking with an air of indifference. Despite his reserved demeanor, a subtle aura of hate, or was it anger, lingered in his eyes. Kakashi continued leading them toward the Hokage's tower, emphasizing the need for teamwork to them as they walked even as his nose was pointed at the little orange book in his hand. As they approached the tower, Naruto couldn't contain his excitement. "I can't wait to show everyone my ninja skills. Maybe I'll be the first to complete a mission and become a true hero." Sakura rolled her eyes at Naruto, while Sasuke maintained his trademark expression. The team entered the Hokage's tower, ready to take on their first set of missions under Kakashi-sensei, not yet understanding that he was going to address their weakness in teamwork, not with cool jutsu or better ways to kill a certain man. No, this marked the beginning of their journey into the world of D-rank boredom. Team 7 stopped at the door of the bustling hall that was the mission desk. It was teeming with activity from Jonin teams like theirs, looking confused and dazed to laughing Chunin picking up another mission to the more stoic Jonin learning about their next assassination mission. Kakashi led them up the long table at the end of the hall full of scrolls. The Chunin behind the counter was handed over D-rank mission scrolls as fast as he could. "Mission type," said the Chunin as Kakashi stopped in front of her. "Team 7," was all he said, but the Chunin seemed to know immediately what scrolls to pull out, not even looking at them as she handed them over. "Next," yelled the Chunin, clearing, wanting Team 7 to move on. Kakashi, maintaining his usual composure, skimmed through the assigned tasks. "Deliver a package, assist an elderly woman in buying some furniture, and fix the damage in the academy training grounds. He casually summarized, a faint smile playing on his lips unseen by his students. Naruto's eyes drained of his enthusiasm. Easy enough. But when do we train on some cool jutsu? Sakura, displaying her usual practicality, rolled her eyes. Naruto, we're not dealing with life or death situations here. Kakashi-sensei said we needed to work on teamwork. The look on Naruto's face almost made her blush as he looked over at her. If you say so, Sakura-chan, said Naruto, once again focusing all his attention on his pink teammate that once again acknowledged his existence. Sasuke predictably remained silent, his expression revealing nothing, but deep inside he began to wonder if he were to get rid of his teammates, would Kakashi train him? Meanwhile, the Hokage observed the unfolding scene from his perch above the hall, taking a contemplative puff from his pipe. D-rank missions lay the groundwork for a ninja's career. Let's see how Team 7 handles the basics before throwing them into the deep end, thought the Hokage as he watched them leave. Armed with their mission scrolls, Team 7 left the tower, prepared to tackle the apparently mundane tasks awaiting them in the village. Little did they know that so many were paying attention to their journey in the realm of D-rank assignments. Anime, a Naruto rated. T. English, Drama and Suspense, Naruto U. Sakura H. Words, 17K+, Faves, 7, follows. 12, published, March 5th, updated 3 hours ago. Chapter 2, D-rank Hell. D-rank Hell. Come on, Bachan, just pick one. Naruto exclaimed, his voice echoing through the store as they strolled up and down the aisles, examining various lamps. Sasuke and Sakura, arms full of throw pillows, watched as Naruto waited for the elder's decision. Bachan, seemingly unperturbed, squinted at the assortment of lamps, her eyes scrutinizing each one. After a moment of contemplation, she pointed to a particular lamp with a flourish, signaling Naruto to add it to the growing collection of items in his arms. With a dramatic sigh, Naruto hoisted the chosen lamp onto his pile. All right, next on the list, what's it gonna be? Sasuke, carrying his load, followed, and Sakura, adjusting the throw pillows, exchanged amused glances, adding a wink that he quickly ignored. The mission felt like a total waste of time, but seeing Kakashi a few steps behind reading his orange book, they didn't have much choice but to do as the elder asked. Leaving the old lady's house with a fistful of cookies, Team 7 strolled over to Kakashi, who was leisurely leaning against a nearby post. Naruto, running the last few steps, shouted with his mouth full, "What's the next mission, sensei? Is it something cool?" Kakashi, adjusting his headband, glanced at the mission scroll in his hand. Well, it's not as thrilling as facing down bandits or rescuing a damsel in distress, but it's still important. We've been assigned to deliver a package. Naruto's excitement dimmed a bit at the mundane nature of the mission. Sakura, looking at Kakashi with a questioning gaze, asked, "Just a package? Is that all?" Kakashi, with his signature eye smile, nodded. "Yes, just a package. But remember, every mission is an opportunity to improve, even the seemingly boring ones. Now, let's head to the designated location and get this done efficiently." They could almost hear the laughter in his voice as they walked down the street. Team 7 sighed collectively, realizing that not every mission could be an epic adventure. As they walked towards their next assignment, Naruto, with a cookie in hand, muttered, "Fixing the academy training grounds would have been cooler." Kakashi chuckled under his mask, knowing that ninja life wasn't always about grand battles and heroic deeds. Sometimes, it involved the everyday tasks that kept the village running smoothly. Upon reaching the designated location, which turned out to be a small shop in the village, Team 7 was handed a carefully wrapped package. The shop owner, a kind elderly woman, smiled warmly at them. "Make sure it gets to its destination intact, young ones. It's delicate," she advised. Leaving the box in the hands of a woman at the address on the box, the team ran back to Kakashi, but now not really that excited about their next mission. "Okay, sensei, now what?" said Naruto as the other two didn't have the energy to care, now bored to tears already. Kakashi glanced at his team, noting the waning enthusiasm. "Next up, we need to address some damage at the academy training grounds." Sasuke raised an eyebrow. "Uchiha fixing anything seems absurd." Sakura sighed quietly, her mind already drifting to the prospect of working out in the hot sun. The grin on Naruto's face was so fake at this point even Sasuke took the time to notice. As they approached the academy, the atmosphere among the team seemed to reflect the growing overcast sky. The academy building loomed into view, and a section of the training grounds appeared to be well used. Targets were toppled, kunai scattered, and various signs of wear and tear were evident. Not too long ago, they had been the ones leaving the training grounds a mess, and not once had they wondered how or even who cleaned it every day. Let's complete this quickly so we can return the mission scrolls as completed, Kakashi urged. Despite the nature of the task, the team fell into a rhythm. Naruto's energy might have dimmed, but the trio worked together to restore the training grounds to order. Employing a small army of clones, Naruto efficiently scoured the grass, collecting and returning all the scattered ninja tools to the training box. Little did they know that even in these seemingly simple missions, their bonds and skills were being tested. Unknown to the team, inside Kakashi's little orange book was another smaller book where he meticulously noted down all their interactions for the daily report demanded by the Hokage. Returning to the mission hall, the team dragged themselves over to the desk. It had been a long day, and the only thought in their heads was a hot meal and a soft bed. Team 7, missions complete, said Kakashi as he handed over the scroll. The Chunin took a moment to read over the scrolls before handing Kakashi 3 pouches of coins. Okay, team, well done, and here is your mission pay, said Kakashi, dropping the pouch of coins in each of their hands. Sasuke gave a huff as the amount and walked off to do some training in the Uchiha private training grounds. He had a collection of scrolls he was working on trying to perfect his fire jutsu. Sakura looked in the pouch and gave a small smile. She would at least be able to buy a new dress if the pay was the same tomorrow. Arigato-sensei, she said with a small bow before leaving. When Naruto looked into his pouch, his eyes grew so wide the Chunin behind the desk looked like she was going to make a run for it. Kakashi stood still, wondering if the Jinchuriki had lost his mind when Naruto jumped and hugged him. Arigato Kakashi-sensei, I didn't know we would be paid for these missions. Thank you, yelled out Naruto, seeing the most money in one place he had ever had. He ran out of the mission hall with the biggest smile, heading straight for Ichiraka Ramen. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of missions for Team 7. Every morning Kakashi would take them to the mission hall to the same Chunin who had their mission scrolls laid out. Each day Naruto was bouncing around ready to start the day. They found themselves tackling various D-rank assignments, ranging from delivering messages to weeding a local garden. Each day brought new challenges, and surprisingly, the team was paid for every completed task. Naruto couldn't believe his luck. It was the first time he had a steady income. Flushed with newfound wealth, Naruto was eager to clear his debts. He joyfully marched into Ichiraka Ramen at the end of the week and paid back all the money he owed them. Tucci, the ramen shop owner, looked surprised but happily accepted the payment. Naruto beamed with pride. This was the first time he was debt-free in his whole life. Maybe someday he will have enough money to take Sakura out on a real date, once he figured out what that was. Sakura, on the other hand, appeared more and more standoffish during the missions. Each day her mind seemed preoccupied, and she maintained a distance from Naruto, all the while doing her best to be near Sasuke. Occasionally, she would shove Naruto, displaying a level of frustration that hadn't been there before. The dynamic within the team was shifting, and Kakashi noted the subtle changes in their interactions in his daily reports to the Hokage. It all came to a head after 2 weeks of missions. They were on the top of a roof fixing a skylight when Sakura stomped over to Naruto as he was prying out the old glass frame, while Sasuke was on the ground unloading the new pane. Naruto, yelled Sakura, getting the orange-clad shinobi to jump, pulling out the window. What do you need, Sakura-chan? Asked Naruto as he balanced the large window over his head. Hearing her father's voice screaming at her from the night before, Sakura stormed over to him until their noses were almost touching. With her hands on her hips, she said, "What can you do for me? You can learn to fly." With those words, she pushed Naruto with both hands, making him go flying off the roof. He hung in the air for a moment with a shocked look on his face before falling 3 floors onto the delivery truck below. Looking over the edge, she could see broken glass everywhere. Naruto had landed on the new window, smashing it to pieces, and Sasuke was brushing the glass off of him as he checked to see if his teammate was still alive. Kakashi, who had been standing down the street talking to the truck driver, came running. Without hesitation, he picked up Naruto and vanished using the body flicker technique. Seeing the mess and commotion she had caused, Sakura went down to the street. Looking around at the glass that was everywhere and Sasuke sitting on the sidewalk, she went over to talk to him. "What happened up there?" asked Sasuke as he wrapped a bandage around his arm where a piece of glass had cut him. "I don't know." 1 minute Naruto was pulling on the glass. The next he went flying off the roof, lied Sakura. "I know the dobe is a dobe, but I didn't think he was that clumsy," said Sasuke. Sakura looked at Sasuke as he stood up and walked away. All she could think of was the look on Naruto's face when she pushed him. Every night, as soon as she walked in the door, her mother or father would ask her if she had gotten rid of Naruto yet. Last night had been the worst. After 2 weeks of boring D-ranked missions, her father had cornered her in the family room. "So what is taking so long? You need to be alone with Sasuke when the change happens," said her father as she backed into the wall. I know, said Sakura, not wanting to think about it. "Then do something." Her father's sudden scream pulled her eyes up to his. They were glowing with an inner light from his change those many years ago. He was weak from years of isolation, but still far stronger than her. "I will, father," she said, looking away. "That child never listens to you. She is just like Momoka," yelled out grandmother from her chair next to the fireplace, which always burned even on the hottest days of summer. Sakura's father looked over at the mantel where a simple clay urn was placed in the middle before he turned back to Sakura. Without pause, he backhanded her across the face, not once, not twice, but 3 times until her head was spinning. "You want to end up like your sister? Well, do you?" yelled her father as she leaned against the wall. "No, father," said Sakura, knowing that her sister had failed the plan years ago, and her father had beaten her to death for it. She had missed her chance at the turning and had bonded with the wrong shinobi. The large man grabbed Sakura around the neck and lifted her off her feet until he was staring her in the eye. "I need results. Do you hear me, girl? Results," he said between gritted teeth before punching her in the gut and dropping her to the ground. As she lay there gasping for breath, all Sakura could think about was different ways to remove Naruto from the team. Back on the street, she looked around, clearing her head of the memories of last night to find herself alone with nothing but broken glass that reminded her of her life. Nothing but pieces thrown about with no hope of putting them or herself back together again. Not wanting to go home, ever, she wandered around the village, seeing some of her old school friends still running around doing their D-rank missions. It was still mid-afternoon, and she knew going to see Sasuke would be a waste of time, as he had told her days ago when she followed him home that he would not unlock the gate for her ever again. Watching her feet as she walked, not caring where they would take her, it was hours later as her toes kicked a concrete step that made her look up. The brightly lit sign over her head told her everything she needed to know. "Hospital," in bold white letters. Curiosity pulled her inside. She did wonder what they would do with his body, knowing that he didn't have a family to claim him like they did with her sister. If they gave her an urn of ash, what would she do with it? She thought to herself as she walked up to the front desk. "Excuse me," she said to the front desk, "do you know what they did with Naruto's body?" Getting a laugh out of the man behind the desk, he pointed down the hall. "Sorry, we aren't that lucky today. He is in room 142 at the end of the hall if you want to go see him." Walking down the hall, Sakura realized she was emotionally numb. She had no feelings, as if she were a doll without strings walking to see what horrors she had made. Was he crippled or paralyzed? Death would be better for someone like Naruto than being bound to a bed or a chair for your whole life. She couldn't see him living like that. If he asked, she would finish the job. She was his teammate. After all, it was the least she could do. Pushing the door open, she poked her head inside, only to be greeted by, "Sakura-chan, you came to see me," yelled out Naruto from the bed in the center of the room. Letting the door slam into the wall, she moved into the room. The bed was near an open window with the curtains fluttering in the small breeze. Naruto was in the center of the bed, wrapped in more bandages than she had ever seen on one person. Only his face was showing, and locks of blonde hair seemed to have found their way out from the bands of white, falling down over his left eye. His arms and legs were being held out by strange metal arms that looked more like a torture device than medical equipment. Seeing him sprawled out and propped up on a stack of pillows, she walked over to the side of the bed. Dumbfounded was the only word that could describe how she felt. He should be dead, or at least in a coma from that fall, not grinning at her from between bandages. "Thanks for coming to see me, Sakura-chan. It's so boring here. Everything is white and smells funny," said Naruto. After spending all afternoon alone in this room unable to move, her showing up like this confirmed everything he had been thinking. She cared and was his one true friend. How are you alive? She had been thinking it, but saying it out loud made it all the more real. "You should be dead." "Dead? Me? Nah, I've had worse things done to me than that little fall. You'll see. I'll be up and about doing missions in a day or two. I promise, Sakura-chan, I wouldn't leave you to do all the work," said Naruto, blowing the hair out of his face so he could see her better. Moving around the bed, she couldn't help but stare at all the work that had been done, mostly to hold him down and keep him still. It was then that she noticed the metal bands under the sheets, binding him to the bed. He seemed more like a prisoner than a patient, that was clear. "So," she said, pausing to find the words, "this has happened before?" Grinning like a fool, Naruto said, "Oh, yeah. falling off buildings, and having large things fall on me. I was even dragged by a horse around the village for hours before the rope broke. The worst part is the food, you know? Eating some food can make you really sick. He said the last part as if he was disclosing a S-rank secret. Finding a chair against the wall, she dragged it over to the bedside. The screeching sound of the chair legs on the tiled floor echoed out the door and down the hall, but she didn't care. Her world was now upside down, and what was a little noise in a hospital compared to that? Sitting down, she looked him up and down, picking up the chart on the side table. She read the list of injuries, both internal and the ones she could see, and said, "It will take months for all this to heal, you know. He really should be dead, but breaking most of the bones in his body will take months to heal." Months she could use to get closer to Sasuke. The plan was still on track, and her father should leave her alone for now. Months? It never takes that long, you'll see. The worst I had was when I was in the orphanage. Someone tied me down to the bed and set it on fire. When I got out of the hospital, Gigi gave me my own apartment. Said Naruto, still way too cheery to her liking. Was he on drugs for the pain? He had to be acting like this. She wondered for a moment if she could get some to numb her own pain. Crossing her legs and leaning back in the chair, she looked up at the ceiling. Everything was white, not even one boring picture or flower to look at. It dawned on her that someone had taken the time to remove everything with color to torture him even just a little. The amount of hate it takes to plan something like that was borderline psychotic. Closing her eyes, the lack of sleep and the exhaustion from the day, both mental and physical, hit her as she dozed off, allowing her body to relax to the sound of the medical monitors and Naruto's breathing. What do you mean she tried to kill him? The third Hokage's brows furrowed as Kakashi handed him his daily report. It's all there. Naruto said she pushed him off the roof, telling him to learn to fly. He was in too much pain to come up with a lie like that, replied Kakashi, holding back the impulse to retreat behind his little orange book. The third Hokage glanced at one of his best, if not the best, shinobi among his ranks. Placing him in charge of the 3 most damaged upcoming shinobi had proven to be one of his better decisions. From the Uchiha boy consumed by hatred to the utterly unpredictable Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox, and perhaps the most challenging of all, the last surviving Harumo allowed to wander freely. The previous one had mysteriously died in a fall down her family's stairs, compelling him to confine them to their house under a chakra seal until a better solution was found. Exhaling smoke from his pipe, he pondered for a moment. Do you have any idea why? The third Hokage already had a strong inkling of the answer, but it was always good to hear someone else's point of view. The Academy records indicate that she was the only one who interacted with Naruto when he returned from failing the 3rd time. Clearly, he interprets everything she says or does as a sign of affection, no matter how cruel. As for her motivations, her behavior suggests she's a complete fangirl for the Uchiha. However, I've observed moments when she thinks no one is looking and gazes at him with a predatory look, indicating he's more prey in her eyes than a potential love interest, Kakashi reported, maintaining his attentive stance. The closer she gets to awakening her Kekkai Genkai, the more dangerous she will become. Keep a close eye on all of them, Kakashi. But if you notice any signs of her awakening, get everyone as far away as possible, said the 3rd Hokage, bending over to drop Kakashi's report in the filing drawer he used for S-rank reports. As you command, Hokage-sama, replied Kakashi. With a nod from the Hokage, he used Shunshin no Jutsu to leave the room. Now on the street below, he pulled out his book with an almost audible sigh as he made his way to the hospital. It was late, and the stars indicated it was almost the start of a new day. Slipping into Naruto's room through the open window he had purposely left open, Kakashi checked to see Naruto snoring away amidst the beeping sounds of the monitors. The sight of the pink-haired girl sleeping in the chair next to him was unexpected. He quickly checked to ensure she had no poisons or any real weapons that could harm Naruto. Closing the door quietly, he moved to the corner of the room and, using his Umbu training, blended into the shadows to wait and watch. The Umbu Shadow Jutsu allowed one to sleep and yet remain alert at the same time. If he was right, the morning was going to be quite entertaining. Naruto slowly regained consciousness in his hospital bed, his vision blurry as he blinked away the sleep. The white ceiling told him where he was, but still half asleep, he didn't know why. Turning his head, the first thing that caught his attention was Sakura slouched in the chair beside him, eyes closed, seemingly fast asleep. He shifted slightly, feeling the restraints that kept him secured to the bed. Sakura-chan, Naruto called out, his voice still raspy from just waking up. Sakura stirred, opening her eyes slowly, the exhaustion calling her back to sleep just a little bit more. Naruto's second call jolted her awake, and she blinked, momentarily disoriented. God, this room is so white it hurts. Naruto noticed her stirring and tried to adjust himself. What happened? Why am I tied up? He asked, confused, not yet remembering what happened. Sakura blinked, surprised by Naruto's questioning. Oh, you're finally up, she mumbled, avoiding eye contact, and then hesitated before answering his question. You fell, and you were injured. They restrained you because, well, you were moving around too much to heal properly, she explained, skirting around the truth and making it up as she went along. Naruto furrowed his brows, trying to remember. I fell? From where? He questioned. Sakura's unease grew as Naruto probed for answers. Just, don't worry about it, Naruto. You need to rest, she deflected, her voice sounding a bit strained. The chart had said he had a massive concussion, all in red ink, as if this was more important than the ruptured spleen. Naruto glanced around the room. He squinted, trying to see into the shadows, a faint feeling that someone else was present lingering in his mind. He then noticed Kakashi lurking in the corner, barely visible. What's Kakashi-sensei doing here? Naruto asked, his gaze flickering between Sakura and Kakashi. Sakura's eyes darted to where Naruto was looking, apprehension flashing across her face. Kakashi-sensei, she muttered, seemingly caught off guard, quickly trying to regain composure. What are you talking about? We are alone. Naruto, feeling a bit uneasy, struggled against his restraints. Why Sakura couldn't see Kakashi standing right there was a question for another time. Hey, why am I tied up? And where's the old man? He demanded, growing increasingly frustrated. Images of the past few days flashed in his mind, all blurring together as if his mind wasn't able to put this in the right order. Sakura hesitated, realizing she had to tell Naruto the truth, or at least some version of it. She leaned closer, her voice lowering to a whisper. Naruto, you have to trust me. You are hurt really bad and have to stay still to heal, she said, trying her best to calm him down. The silence in the room was broken by the soft creak of the door as a nurse entered, carrying a clipboard. Her arrival shifted the attention away from the tense exchange between Naruto and Sakura. Good morning. How's our patient doing today? The nurse chimed cheerfully, her presence easing the palpable tension in the room. Naruto glanced at the nurse, offering a sheepish smile. I guess I'm doing okay, he replied, still feeling slightly disoriented. Sakura watched as the nurse moved around the room, checking the monitors and examining Naruto's condition. As the nurse started unhooking some of the monitors, seemingly disregarding Sakura's presence altogether, Sakura felt the need to say something. Excuse me, Sakura said, unable to contain herself. Why are you unhooking the monitors? He's not ready to be. The nurse glanced up briefly, offering a warm smile that Sakura could clearly see was fake. Oh, don't worry. The doctor said we could remove these now. He's recovering really well. He should be released soon, she reassured Sakura. Sakura's eyebrows furrowed slightly, unsure if she believed the nurse. She glanced at Naruto, silently assessing his condition. Naruto just watched every move the nurse made as if he expected something to happen. Something always happens. As the nurse continued her tasks, Sakura felt a pang of anxiety. She hadn't expected the nurse to remove the monitors so soon. Naruto shouldn't be released for months, and the image of her father's reaction when he learned of her failure once again made her jump up. Stop. This can't be right. The chart said he broke every bone in his body, and the internal injuries were. I don't know. Really bad, said Sakura, wanting the nurse to halt her actions. Listen, sweetie. This boy will be released later today. Now let me finish my job so I can take care of real people, retorted the nurse, undoing the restraints on Naruto's arms and legs before reaching under the bed with a loud clank to undo the metal bands holding him down. As the nurse walked by her, Sakura could hear her muttering, "Demon lover," before leaving the room. Naruto stretched his arms up over his head and then scratched at his body where the metal bands had pinned him to the bed before turning to Sakura with a big grin. You want to go get ramen with me later? Asked Naruto as if this was just another day for him. Sakura's eyes grew big, realizing that all her work and planning to remove Naruto had done nothing but give her a sore neck from sleeping in a chair. She let out a cry of frustration. No, I don't want to get ramen with you. God, you're so. With those words, she stomped out the door, leaving Naruto laying in bed totally confused. Hey Kakashi-sensei, what's going on? He asked, looking into the shadow in the corner that to everyone else looked empty. Dropping the shadow jutsu, Kakashi walked over to the bed, putting his hand on Naruto's shoulder. So you don't remember falling off the roof? He asked. Kind of. I remember pulling out the window and Sakura saying something about flying and then waking up in this room, said Naruto, turning his head to look up at Kakashi as if he had all the answers. How can I help you? She asked. The chart said you were the doctor in charge of Naruto's case. I am his Jonin sensei, and I want to know what his condition is. We both know about his condition, so you don't need to hide anything from me, said Kakashi, placing both hands on the desk and leaning forward to look the doctor in the eyes. No need to intimidate me, Kakashi. I know who and what you are. Naruto's condition is responsible for his healing. There is nothing we can do but make sure his bones are aligned, as the fox has a habit of healing them in whatever position it finds them in. We learned the hard way when he was young after we had to re-break his legs so they would heal right, explained the doctor, recalling the look on the 3-year-old's face when she ordered his leg to be broken again. What about his memory? He seems more confused than normal, said Kakashi, stepping back from the desk. I have noticed that before. We aren't sure if it's the fox or Naruto choosing not to remember. Head injuries are tricky, and a concussion like the one he had yesterday should have made him a vegetable. I personally think it's both. The fox doesn't care to heal his brain beyond keeping him alive, and what Naruto doesn't want to remember, he doesn't, added the doctor. Now, if that is all, I do have many other patients that don't have a rage monster in their gut to heal them. Leaving the hospital, Kakashi found Sakura sitting on the steps with her head in her hands, staring down at her feet. At first, Kakashi thought she was crying, but as he got closer, he could hear her talking to herself as if there was someone else sitting next to her. Was this the first sign of her Kekkei Genkai, or was she just experiencing a moment of madness, like so many other shinobi? It was too early for battle madness to settle in, so he assumed it was more likely normal teenage moodiness. Sakura, let's go to the team meeting spot. I am sure Sasuke is waiting there patiently, said Kakashi as he walked ahead, book held up to his nose, listening to hear if she was following. Her footsteps soon caught up to him as he rounded a corner. Kakashi-sensei, said Sakura as she walked next to him, still looking down at her sandals. Does Naruto have a Kekkei Genkai? Yes, it would seem so, Kakashi replied, giving the simplest answer to a very complex question. She was too young to know, and the third's law prevented him from disclosing it. Naruto was the only one who could reveal it, but as he didn't really understand it himself. Kakashi shrugged inwardly. Only time would tell if he would ever figure it out. Mizuki had been blunt and very stupid, but from what he was learning, Naruto still didn't understand the power that he contained. Sensei, if he has such a powerful Kekkei Genkai, then why was he treated as the dead last? She asked, posing one of those impossible questions. Kakashi stopped and looked around. Placing his book in his vest pocket, he turned to Sakura and said, there are some things we all keep hidden from the outside world. You have your secrets, and Naruto has his. Maybe someday, you two will be able to share, but for now, we have D-rank missions to do. With that, he quickly walked away, leaving Sakura to ponder for a moment before running to keep up. Leaving the mission hall that afternoon, the bag of coins seemed a little lighter than usual. Without Naruto and his army of clones to assist, they were only able to complete 2 missions. Spending the day pulling weeds out of a farmer's field without the endless supply of Naruto clones felt more like torture than any mission a shinobi should be doing. Sasuke had completely lost his cool when Kakashi pointed out that a shinobi's primary job is to obey orders and do what is necessary to support the village. It was the first time Sakura had ever seen Sasuke show any emotion as he started to argue with Kakashi about clans and honor. It all seemed futile to her. What had her clan ever done for her but caused her pain? With her small bag of coins and in need of a shower, she headed home. Having been gone for over a day, she wondered if they had noticed her absence. It wouldn't surprise her at all if they had rented out her room or something. The sound of laughter drew her off course, leading her down an alley she had never explored. Following the sound, she found its source behind the cloth signs proclaiming the best ramen in the village. Bold strokes spelled out Ichiraka Ramen across the entrance. As she moved the cloth aside, she spotted her orange-clad teammate sitting at the counter, animatedly sharing a story about some bird or something. Naruto? What are you doing out of the hospital? She asked, still not believing he was healed after she pushed him off the building. Sakura-chan, I'm all better now. Sit and have some ramen. It's the food of the gods, I swear, Naruto exclaimed as soon as he spotted his pink-haired teammate. Taking a seat 2 stools away from Naruto, Sakura felt strangely at home in this little food stand tucked away in an out-of-the-way corner of the village. The waitress was cute and quick to bring her a glass of water, bowing to show her the menu on the wall. The number 1 spot was the Naruto special, written in bold type, served in an extra-large or large bowl. "I will have the small seafood ramen," she said to the girl behind the counter. "Come on, Sakura-chan, you can eat more than that." "Here, let me show you," said Naruto, then proceeded to eat the largest bowl of ramen Sakura had ever seen. She wasn't sure whether to be impressed or repulsed at the sight. His skill with the chopsticks was impressive in the fact that he didn't miss one noodle or a single drop of broth when he dumped the remains down his throat was alarming. Taking her own chopsticks in hand, she did take a small bite and soon was eating not as fast as Naruto, who really could, but at a much faster rate than when she was at home. It truly was the best ramen she had ever had, and Naruto's love of it was understandable. "Ready for another bowl?" asked the shy girl behind the counter with a smile. "No, that was good, but I couldn't," said Sakura, pushing the bowl away. Getting up to leave, she was stopped by Naruto's shout, "Sakura-chan, thanks for eating with me." "Wait, what?" She hadn't planned on spending any time with him, and now he thinks she had dinner with him. There is something really wrong with him, she thought as she gave the cook a little bow and a wave as she walked away, leaving coins on the counter. She still had to get home. 2 days in the same clothes and without a shower was not how she had planned this week. Naruto should be dead and Sasuke under her control, or at least talking to her by now. The plan was going off track, and she only hoped her father didn't lose his cool again. Entering her house as quietly as she could, she carried her sandals with her up the stairs, hoping nobody noticed. Reaching her room, she closed the door and leaned back against the cold wood. She made it, and now for a shower before she falls face first onto the bed. Exiting the bathroom with a towel around her and drying her hair with another, she didn't notice her mother sitting on the bed until she pulled the towel away from her face. Stopping where she stood, Sakura's blood ran cold. Her mother was never in her room. In truth, she always assumed her mother didn't even know where her room was, as she always stayed on the first floor. After all, who wants to go to a renovated attic? It was always too hot in the summer and too damn cold in the winter. "Mother?" she asked, not wanting to set the older woman off by asking any real question. "Sakura, I heard that creature was sent to the hospital. Was that what you're doing?" asked her mother. "Yes, I pushed Naruto off a roof. Father said he wanted him out of the way, so I pushed him when I saw the chance," said Sakura. It felt like she was giving a report on a mission, not talking to the woman who gave birth to her. Her mother had turned cold, very cold, when her sister died, and Sakura assumed she would never return to the mother she remembered when she was young. "Good," said her mother, standing up and towering over Sakura. "When your father heard, he was very pleased. Now focus all your energy on the Uchiha. You need to be close when the change happens," she said as she walked to the door, turned to look at Sakura, and said, "With your change, we will return to the power we once had." A fear like no other filled Sakura at the thought of them hearing the truth from someone else. "Mother, wait, about Naruto. He was in the hospital, deathly hurt. But did you know he has a Kekkei Jinkai that allows him to heal from almost anything?" said Sakura, backing away until her legs hit the bed, bracing herself for what was to come. Her mother moved with blinding speed, using the family gift to cross the room in a blink. Her backhand across Sakura's face sent her flying onto the bed, rolling her over until she slammed into the wall against which the bed was pressed. Her towel went flying, and the feeling of cold air and the blood running down her face made her feel vulnerable and useless, all at the same time. "Next time, cut his head off if you must. Trust me, the village will love you for it," said her mother before walking out the door and slamming it for good measure. Running to the bathroom, she could see the cut across her cheek was long and deep. Why did she have to use the hand with the ring on it? Said Sakura to her reflection. This cut was not going to be hidden by any amount of makeup. Placing a bandage over it, she figured she would pretend it wasn't there and dare one of her teammates to say anything. "Morning, my cute little Jinin. I have great news for you," said Kakashi as he strolled up to the small bridge, fashionably 2 hours late. His team had scattered themselves, each choosing a spot at a considerable distance from the others. Naruto sat under a tree nursing his chin where Sakura had hit him when he wouldn't stop asking about her face. Sasuke on the other side of the bridge fought the urge to unleash a fireball at both of them. While Sakura stood in the middle of the bridge looking over at Sasuke like he was her only hope for a last meal, she was the only one who bothered to look up as he walked into view, the conspicuous white bandage on her face clearly visible. "Today, I'm taking you to Training Field 7. This training ground boasts different terrains, obstacles, and features designed to simulate real combat scenarios. We'll be refining your ninja skills and conducting team exercises," Kakashi recited from the script in his little orange book. The Hokage had insisted on these exact words, So, being the good Jonin he was, Kakashi faithfully transcribed and relayed them to his team. Word for word. The Hokage would be so proud, thought Kakashi in his most sarcastic inner voice. All right, it's time for some serious training, yelled Naruto, bounding to the front of the group with more energy than an entire academy class. Move it, dope, said Sasuke, glaring at Naruto before lining up alongside him, while Sakura joined, facing their sensei and looking at his feet. What will we focus on first, Kakashi-sensei? Asked Sakura, visibly avoiding eye contact as she stood in line. Kakashi could see Sakura didn't really want to, so he moved on, hoping some training in the ninja arts would open her up. All right, team, today's focus will be on improving our coordination and teamwork against an unknown enemy, he declared. He would let the team figure out their own way of dealing with each other for now. Many of the Jonin sensei had said that a little bloodshed between teammates did wonders. Let's head over to Training Field 7 and get started. The trio followed Kakashi towards the training ground, each lost in their thoughts. Naruto, eager for training, took large strides, his head held high as his excitement overflowing. Sasuke was close behind, his expression unreadable as usual, getting one step closer to killing that man was his only goal. Sakura, walking with them, attempted to hide her real feelings on what was going on between her and every part of her life. Her only hope was that her teammates wouldn't ask any more questions as she did her best to follow her real mission and stay as close to Sasuke as he would allow. Arriving at Training Field 7, Kakashi outlined the day's training. Okay, team, we have to improve our teamwork and working together effectively, stressed Kakashi. Our goal today is to work on our coordination while on a mission, he instructed, directing their attention to the training ahead. Pulling out a scroll that looked like any other D-rank mission scroll, he read from it. As a team, your mission to protect the client from any unknown attackers as you take them to their village. Naruto, you will make one clone to act as the client we are protecting. You are to move down that path, he said, pointing at a barely perceptible deer path, until you reach the training posts at the end. Your client is a civilian, so you have to stay on the path. You can be attached at any time or not at all, so be prepared, said Kakashi, looking at the puzzled faces of his students. This is what a real-life mission is like. It's not all about being the one attacking. Most of your missions will be defending a person or a thing. Now be ready for anything. The team quickly formed around the Naruto clone as Kakashi used the Shunshin no Jutsu to vanish into the tree line. Sakura, while physically present, seemed preoccupied, her forced smile at her teammates hiding the inner turmoil caused by her mother's blow and demand for action. She knew she had to get her mind in the game, but the sting for her mother's reaction was still on her mind. Dope. Keep your clone in the middle and move slowly. I will scout out in front, said Sasuke, moving ahead down the path. Sakura and Naruto were forced to take up positions on either side of the client as Sasuke vanished into the underbrush. Don't worry, Sakura-chan, I won't fail, said Naruto, giving the pink-haired girl a thumbs up. Sakura, for her part, scanned the trees and just wanted this to be all over. Are you sure about this, Kakashi? Asked Asuma as he stood by the training post at the end of the path with his Genin team. Yes. You know the plan, said Kakashi, his nose buried deep in his orange book. Turning to his team, Asuma gave a shrug and said, Team 10, this is a joint training mission. You will be the attackers, and Team 7 will be the defenders. Your mission is to eliminate the client at the center of their formation. This is meant to be a live-fire training exercise, so don't hold back. Asuma looked at his team, which consisted of Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji, each looking progressively more bored than the last, with Shikamaru sleeping on his feet again. Who is playing the client? Asked Ino as she glanced at her fingernails, thinking she would have to get them redone after this mission. It's a clone, so don't worry about hurting anyone, said Kakashi, off to the side. Any other questions? Asked Asuma. Okay, no questions then. Move out, team. Naruto walked down the winding path with the client behind him, while Sakura brought up the rear. They hadn't heard from Sasuke for the last 30 minutes. Training Ground 7 was the largest among the training grounds, and at a normal walking speed, it would take an hour to reach the training post. It might take even longer if they had to stay on the path. Naruto, do you hear something? Said Sakura as she looked around. What do you mean, Sakura-chan? Asked Naruto, turning to face his crush. When he heard the sound of breaking tree branches, looking around, he couldn't tell where it was coming from. Suddenly, out of the treetops, a large boulder came flying down and landed with a thud on top of the client, causing the clone to burst into a cloud of white smoke. As they stood there dumbfounded looking at the stone, Kakashi appeared on top of the rock, holding Sasuke by the back of his shirt, dropping him on his rear. You failed. Your client is dead, said Kakashi, trying his best not to laugh. Shikamaru's plan had worked perfectly. With Ino scouting and sharing their location with a mind transfer jutsu, Choji had been able to hit the target with little effort. But that isn't fair, yelled out Naruto, pointing at the large stone that had crushed his clone. Who said anything about fair? You have to look for the expected and stay together as a team, not wander off looking for a fight, said Kakashi, pointedly looking at Sasuke as he stood up and brushed the dirt off his pants. Now go back to the starting point and try again, said Kakashi, vanishing once again. Naruto, Sakura, and the client walked down the winding path once again. Sasuke had run off again, saying he would deal with their attackers alone. The absence of Sasuke was becoming somewhat routine at this point. Naruto, do you hear something? Sakura asked as she scanned the surroundings, looking up but seeing no flying stone this time. What do you mean, Sakura-chan? Naruto turned to face her. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed, and before anyone could react, a massive tree crashed down onto the client, causing the clone to disperse in a puff of smoke. Naruto's scream could be heard all the way to the training post where Team 10 was laughing at how easy this mission was. Didn't Kakashi-sensei teach them how to spot a trap? Asked Choji between bits of chips as he sat on a log. Laughing Ino said, clearly not. It's your turn again, Choji. Get off your ass and get moving. The scene replayed as Kakashi appeared atop the fallen log, dropping Sasuke unceremoniously. You failed. Your client is dead. Again, Kakashi remarked, barely concealing a smile. The second attempt had ended abruptly and sadly his team had yet to learn anything. Naruto, frustrated, and for some unknown reason sporting a headache, yelled out, that's not fair. A tree just fell out of nowhere. Life isn't fair, Naruto. Anticipate the unexpected, Kakashi reminded them before issuing the command to retry. Once more, they went back and started their mission. However, this time, as they navigated through the terrain, the ground collapsed beneath the client, sending it plummeting into a pit filled with sharp spikes, once again getting a scream out of Naruto, who had to rub his back where it started to hurt. Kakashi reappeared, Sasuke in tow, shaking his head. Another failure. You must remain alert and adapt. Retry from the starting point. Again, the team sighed in frustration, realizing the difficulties of the mission. They readied themselves for another attempt, determined to succeed despite not seeing who was attacking them. Naruto, Sakura, with the client between them, walked down the winding path once again, Sasuke trailing somewhere behind. Sasuke's presence was surprising at this point, but he said something about his eyes being better at spotting traps than theirs, not wanting to tell them how easily Kakashi beat him every time he found him wandering alone. Training Ground 7's vastness made it hard to tell where they would be attacked next as they continued to look up, down, and around them. Naruto, do you hear something? Sakura's alertness and superior hearing made both boys jump and scan the area. What do you mean, Sakura-chan? Naruto asked, turning to her just as they heard a buzzing sound. Without warning, a swarm of large, aggressive bees emerged from a nearby hive, attacking the client and causing it to disperse in a cloud of smoke. Naruto's screams could be heard at the training post as Ino sat rubbing her head. Damn, that was harder than I thought. Do you have any water in that bottle? She held out her hand to Choji, who handed over his bottle. Troublesome. It was your idea to use your mind jutsu on the bees, said Shikamaru, looking up at the clouds. This is getting boring. Let's let them win so we can go eat, said Choji, looking at his now empty water bottle. Hearing their conversation, Asuma stepped to the center of the group. The mission is to stop Team 7 until nightfall. We have 2 more hours to go, so no quitting. Yes, Sensei, said Team 10 as one, knowing Asuma wouldn't let them off easily. Back at the starting point, Team 7 gathered together, preparing to try again. Naruto, I have an idea, said Sakura, tired of losing every time, deciding to speak up as Sasuke was being no help at all. Sure, Sakura-chan. What do you need? Asked Naruto. How many clones can you make? Asked Sakura, rubbing her hands together with a little grin on her face. Oh, I don't know, maybe a couple hundred if I try hard, said Naruto, tapping his finger on his chin as if he had to really think about it. Good, make 100 of them and send them all out in front of us. As soon as one of them spots who is attacking us, have it run back and tell us. And try to have the rest of them attack whoever it is until we get there, said Sakura. Okay, Sakura-chan, said Naruto, putting his hands together for his one and only jutsu. Why does the dope get to run off alone? And I have to stay here, said Sasuke, glaring at his team. He isn't running off. His clones are. Can you make 100 clones? Asked Sakura, dropping her fangirl act for a second and glaring back at Sasuke. I thought so. So get moving, Naruto, yelled out Sakura, not looking at any of them, realizing she had slipped up. With 100 clones leading the way, they started down the path once again, this time moving quickly, knowing they would have some kind of warning. Stopping in his tracks, Naruto turned to his team, saying, "Shikamaru and his team?" The sound of his voice seemed more like a question than anything else, as he appeared more confused than normal when a clone burst out of the trees. "It's Team 10. They are." His cries were abruptly cut short as a shadow emerged from the underbrush, dispersing him into a cloud of smoke. "Clones are so troublesome," said Shikamaru as he appeared, followed by the rest of his team. Choji was in the process of returning to his normal size after using his expanding jutsu to obliterate all of the charging clones. Sasuke didn't hesitate for a moment as he charged headlong at Team 10, Naruto, and Sakura watching as he charged forward. As Sasuke darted toward them, Shikamaru sprang into action, swiftly employing his shadow manipulation jutsu. His shadow extended, aiming to ensnare Sasuke in its grasp. But Sasuke, with his sharp reflexes, narrowly dodged the shadow's reach, swiftly leaping and evading the entangling tendrils. Meanwhile, Ino used her mind transfer jutsu to probe Sasuke's mind, attempting to disturb his focus, but Sasuke's mind was so filled with rage that she was unable to touch his mind without recoiling back. His sheer willpower was all it took to force her mind out of his. Choji joined the fight, unleashing a powerful taijutsu attack. His fists, augmented by his impressive strength, aimed to stop Sasuke. Sasuke countered with his own speed and precision, evading Choji's strikes while seeking an opening to exploit. Sasuke, single-minded in wanting to prove his strength, continued his assault, demonstrating his impressive taijutsu and ninjutsu techniques. His movements were swift and calculated, which Team 10 found challenging to counter, despite their impressive teamwork. With a quick leg sweep, he took Ino down and with a punch to the chin knotted her out before jumping at Shikamaru. Shikamaru, analyzing Sasuke's patterns, attempted to predict his next move. "Ino is down," he said, hoping to create an opening as he sent a dozen shadows out along the ground. Choji moved off to the side to get a clear view of what was going on and noticed that the rest of Team 7 was standing there watching as Sasuke attacked. Thinking they were not going to fight, he waited for the moment he knew was coming. Sasuke paused for a split second, making the hand signs for his fireball jutsu. Shikamaru knew he would use his family jutsu, had been waiting, and as soon as Sasuke raised his hands to form the fireball, trapped him in place. "Now Choji," yelled Shikamaru. "Human bullet tank." Choji bellowed, enlarging his body to transform into a human ball. He rolled with tremendous force, crashing into Sasuke and crushing him into the ground. Releasing his shadows, Shikamaru observed Sasuke's motionless form. Suddenly, a jutsu he had grown to despise pierced the air. "Multi-shadow clone jutsu," screamed Naruto, seeing his friend lying unmoving on the ground. A wave of clones charged toward Shikamaru and Choji, creating chaos. As clones were destroyed, 10 more replaced each one. The fight became unpredictable, even for the sharpest mind, as Naruto's actions were as uncertain as his own thoughts. Asuma and Kakashi-sensei strolled into the clearing, finding Team 10 lying unconscious, surrounded by numerous clones. Sakura was tying them up using ninja wire from Sasuke's pouch, while Naruto was vigorously trying to revive his friend by slapping his face, harder than was really necessary. "See, I told you, those tactics your team used were only going to provoke Team 7, chuckled Kakashi, peering into his book while stepping back. Asuma inspected his team to ensure none were seriously injured. Satisfied they were all fine, he returned to Kakashi, handing over a roll of money. "You won, fair and square," said Asuma before untying his team. "All right, Team 7, good job. Here's your mission pay. We'll meet in the morning," announced Kakashi, dividing the winnings among his team before departing. "Sasuke-kun, are you hurt?" asked Sakura, seeing him open his eyes, as she ran over to Sasuke putting on her fangirl act. He didn't seem to be able to hold his balance after being run over by a meat tank, and Naruto hitting him didn't seem to have helped. "Get away from me," said Sasuke, pushing Sakura away before falling over. It was Naruto's quick reflexes that stopped him from landing on the ground. "Come on, Sasuke, let me take you home," said Naruto, throwing one of Sasuke's arms over his shoulder and half-carrying Sasuke out of the training grounds. In no time they stood in front of the Uchiha compound. The clan gates were closed and Sasuke put his hand on a seal in the middle to open them. Not waiting to live in his old family house, he had moved all of his personal belongings into a small house next to the gate. Pointing to the small, unimpressive home, Naruto helped him to the door. Wow, Sasuke, you have a house all to yourself. That's so cool, remarked Naruto as Team 7 entered Sasuke's new home. Sakura glanced around the small, cramped house, realizing it was once a guardhouse or something similar. It had only 2 rooms with bare wooden floors. His room was no larger than her own, even counting the bathroom. The piles of scrolls on the small table and the array of ninja tools on the wall spoke volumes about his single-minded dedication. Sasuke dropped his fistful of money into a bowl near the door, then moved to the small dining table and took a seat. Naruto noticed the bowl filled with small bags of money they had earned after every D-rank mission. "Sasuke, are you saving up for something big?" asked Naruto, looking at the still considerable amount of money in the bowl. It was once again more money in one place than he had ever seen. That's a waste of time. If you want it, you can have it," replied Sasuke dismissively, waving at the bowl as if it held nothing but trash. He had inherited all the wealth of his clan, possessing more money than he could spend in 100 lifetimes. Yet, he would give it all away just to fulfill his quest for revenge against a certain man. "What? No, I couldn't. It's your money," said Naruto, still staring at the bowl. "I said take it. It's just taking up space, and I need that bowl," said Sasuke, really not caring. Once his head stopped spinning, he was going to force them to leave anyway. "Sasuke-kun, can I get you something?" "Some water, maybe?" asked Sakura. She had read up on concussions after Naruto's fall and knew it was dangerous to leave Sasuke alone until she was sure he had recovered. The thought of what her father would do to her if she let her target die was beyond terrifying. As Naruto filled his pockets, Sakura located the glasses in the small kitchen and filled one with water. As soon as Sasuke drank some, he began to look better. Glancing around his own house as if he were in a stranger's home, he turned to his team. "Get out," he said plainly, with little emotion. "What?" said Naruto, turning to face his only friend, even if it was a one-sided friendship. "I said, get out," Sasuke repeated with a bit more force. Okay, thanks for the money," said Naruto, waving his hands as he walked backward out of the door. "Are you sure, Sasuke-kun? You might have a concussion and you shouldn't be alone," said Sakura, looking away, unable to meet his eyes. She said what she knew she had to say, but with little feelings behind her words anymore. He had pushed her away so many times that any feelings she had for him were long gone. Only the family's plan kept her focused. "Yes, go now," said Sasuke, standing up from his chair as if to push her out the door. Walking to the gate, Naruto waited until Sakura walked up to him. "Hey Sakura-chan, you want to get some ramen with me? I can pay," he said, patting his overstuffed pockets. Sakura paused for a moment. She didn't want to go home, and it was just getting dark. Knowing that if she waited a bit longer, her family would likely have gone to bed, allowing her to sneak back into her house without having to deal with them, she nodded reluctantly. "Okay, but this isn't a date, understand?" she stated firmly. Jumping up in the air with his fist held high, Naruto let out a whoop of joy before running off to Ichiraka Ramen. Then, realizing Sakura wasn't with him, he hurried back and took Sakura's hand, pulling her along at a full-on run. He was thrilled to have 2 of his favorite things together, ramen and Sakura. This was turning out to be the best day of his life. Later that night, Sakura successfully climbed in through the kitchen window and made her way up the stairs to the attic bedroom without waking anyone. Now, staring at her face in the mirror, she slowly peeled off the bandage from her face, revealing that the cut had healed into a small scar. She knew, from past experiences, that it would fade in a couple more days. Strangely, she noticed she always seemed to heal faster when she spent more time around her team than when she stayed home. Her mother had mentioned it was all part of the gift her family had and assured her that she would understand once she had her turning. No matter how many times she asked, her mother only smiled and told her she would understand once she turned into a woman and had her turning. This left Sakura puzzled as she had started her periods years ago, which confused her greatly. She didn't understand what her mother meant by her turning into a real woman. Wasn't she real now? Walking out of the bathroom, she found her father standing in the middle of her bedroom, waiting for her. "I heard you were in the Uchiha's house today," said her father, crossing his arms. "Yes, father," said Sakura, knowing it was best to speak as little as possible. "Did you kiss him, or, better yet, have sex with him?" asked her father, causing Sakura's cheeks to turn bright red in embarrassment. "No, how could you ask such a?" started Sakura, but before she could finish, he lashed out at her, slapping her across the face and sending her to the floor. "Your mission is to join with the Uchiha. The plan calls for you to be near him when your turning comes, you dumb little girl," growled her father. "Yes, father," said Sakura, forgetting all about fighting back. She never had any strength around her father. His very presence in the room made her feel weak and useless. Damn you, Sakura, your one and only purpose is to free this family and return us to power. Why don't you understand that? Yelled her father as he hovered over her while she lay on the floor unmoving, the smell of the drugs he smoked falling off him like a shower of hate. I understand, father, said Sakura, not really caring about what he said or did at this point. They had been saying the same thing for years to her sister before she died at his hands, and now it was her turn. But they never said what power they had had in the past or who they were being freed from. Her father seemed to fill with rage as she just lay there unmoving. Grabbing her arm and one of her legs, he picked her up and threw her onto the bed, watching her bounce and then smash into the wall before lying still on the bed. You're just like your sister. Just do what you're told. With these words, he stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him, leaving Sakura to bury her face into the pillow and scream out her fear and self-loathing. The next week passed by in a blur as she avoided talking or even looking at her teammates while they went on whatever creative or crazy training missions their sensei sent them on. Walking from mission to mission, she found herself back in her room every night, facing questions from her father or mother about how much closer she was to winning over the Uchiha, how much closer to removing Naruto from the team. The questions were always the same. The answers were always the same. A little closer to Sasuke, a little closer to removing Naruto. The lies had become easy to say as she drowned in her own misery. The fog lifted from her mind when Naruto leaped with a scream of joy, shaking his fist in the air. Glancing around, Sakura noticed she was in the Hokage's office, and some old drunk was yelling at Naruto and then at Kakashi about a mission. They were going to leave the village, heading to a place called Wave. This news was new and broke her out of her self-imposed state of emotional numbness. What is going on? She said, as Naruto passed by with that stupid grin on his face. We have a mission, a C-rank mission, Sakura-chan. Isn't that great? We're going to the land of waves with that old drunk over there, said Naruto, as if she hadn't been in the room the whole time. In truth, she had only been there physically. Her mind wandered the dark alleys of her thoughts. When are we going? She asked, looking out the window to see it was still morning. She wasn't even sure what day it was. Did it matter? Not really, so who cares, was her only coherent thought. Okay, team, get your packs together. We meet at the front gate in an hour, said Kakashi, sending his Jin and running out the door to gather their things. It all seemed to blur into a whirlwind of anticipation, overwhelming emotions, and wild actions, and soon, the Land of Waves mission was over. Sakura, Naruto, and Sasuke followed their sensei as they returned to the village, worn and fatigued. Naruto was still bouncing around bragging about a bridge being named after him. Sasuke seemed more closed off than usual after losing his first real fight. And Sakura felt like she was just watching everything happen around her as if she was floating over her own head. Sakura's mind wandered as they walked. The mission had hit her emotionally more than physically. She felt distant, almost like she was going through the motions. At one point, she thought about jumping off the bridge, but she knew Naruto would just save her, so she dropped the idea. When they returned to the village, Sakura felt like the mission had just been a break from her real problems. Sasuke went off to his place, seeking training, but they all knew he would just stare at the walls, while Naruto dragged her to Ichiraka ramen, his scream about the food of the gods echoing around them. 10 bowls of the Naruto special, yelled Naruto. What do you want, Sakura-chan? He asked, turning to his pink-haired teammate. She had been so quiet these past weeks that he almost missed her hitting him. Almost. Give me 1 Naruto special, she said, staring at the counter, unaware of the look of shock on Ayumi's face as she grinned at Naruto, giving him a thumbs up. Sakura-chan, isn't it great that Kakashi said this was a real A-rank mission? So, the pay will be, well, I don't know what the pay is for an A-rank, but it will be great. I'm sure of that, said Naruto, continuing to talk without waiting for her response. He had grown used to her silence during this mission and had taken it upon himself to do all the talking for both of them. Halfway through his 3rd bowl of ramen, Sakura looked over at Naruto amid a storm of noodles and chopsticks as she said, Naruto, I am sorry for pushing you off the bridge. It's okay, it was a clone anyway, said Naruto, unaware that Sakura hadn't known it was a clone at the time. And I am sorry for tripping you when you ran up the tree, she added, turning to her own bowl. Accidents happen to me all the time, don't worry about it, Naruto replied, reaching for his next bowl. And I am sorry for cutting your sleeping hat, she confessed, not looking over at him. What? That was you? I thought you said it was Sasuke, exclaimed Naruto, pausing in his noodles for a second before looking down and diving back into his bowl. Looking back, it had been Sasuke in a way. She was about to drive a kunai into Naruto's forehead when Sasuke had rolled over in his sleep and hit her arm. Despite spending a whole 2 weeks out of the village, she had only found 3 chances to fulfill her father's plan. The thought of going home now was more terrifying than any A-rank mission. That was the real reason she allowed Naruto to drag her to Ichiraku. Finishing her bowl, she sat with her hands in her lap, observing Naruto reach the bottom of his 10th bowl of ramen. As he rubbed his temporarily full stomach and glanced at her with a smile, he realized he had someone, at least for now, and he relished every moment of it. So what if she tried to kill him every once in a while? It wasn't as if half the village hadn't attempted it at one point or another. Besides, she was there with him for ramen. "Sakura-chan, do you want to do something else?" asked Naruto, realizing that taking someone to ramen was his only go-to idea. Now that they had done that, he had no clue what to do next with a girl, or for that matter, with anybody. "I know, do you want to go training?" he suggested, recalling it was the only other activity he did in his free time. Now that he was out of the academy, he didn't have to work on some elaborate prank to get back at a teacher. "No, I can't train after eating so much ramen," Sakura said, getting a strange look out of Naruto. What did ramen have to do with training? "Okay, then do you want to see my place?" he asked. His apartment was the only other safe place he could go without worry about being yelled at or even attacked. The crazy people always came out at night, and he didn't want Sakura to have to deal with that. "Your place? You mean your apartment?" asked Sakura, recalling that Naruto lived alone, without a father or mother to yell or beat him. "Yeah, my apartment." "Do you want to see it?" said Naruto, jumping off his stool and darting into the street, with Sakura following at a slower pace. The idea of going to Naruto's apartment seemed safe. After all, who would think to look for her there? None of her father's spies would ever consider searching there. Naruto raced down one alley, crossed a street, and then took another alley. Soon, Sakura found herself disoriented in her own village. Hadn't they crossed the same street 3 times? And why was the Hokage Tower in a different direction than before? She was so turned around in the dark alleys that when they emerged into the streetlights, she had to blink for a full minute to adjust her eyes to the light. "Come on, Sakura-chan, we're almost there," said Naruto, hurrying to the bottom of a flight of stairs that hadn't been painted in his lifetime and desperately needed it. As they dashed up the stairs and down the open-air hallway, they reached his door, covered in graffiti and crude drawings that only a drunk or a very young child would make. They walked in, greeted by the smell of spoiled food that hit them as Naruto rushed to open all the windows. "Sorry, Sakura-chan. I forgot to throw away the food before we left," said Naruto, pulling out a garbage bag and emptying the refrigerator contents into it. Creating a clone, he sent it out the door to throw the bag in the dumpster. She pushed the door closed and looked around, before she walked over to the sofa, kicking the old ramen cups out of the way. Without a second thought, she pushed the pile of orange clothes onto the floor to make space to sit down. It was a single-room kitchen, living room, and bedroom all in one, with a bathroom visible through the wide-open door. Free, he was free, and as she leaned back and closed her eyes she was free to, at least for the moment, and for now, that was good enough. "You okay, Sakura-chan? You look really tired. You want to go home?" asked Naruto. As Naruto looked at her with concern, Sakura forced a smile. She hesitated for a moment, debating whether to just come out and tell him, but fear held her words back. She shifted her gaze to the floor, hiding the turmoil swirling within her. "No, I'm fine, Naruto. Like you said, just feeling a bit tired," she replied, hoping he wouldn't see through her. She dreaded the thought of returning home, facing her father's anger, the constant demands, and the overwhelming pressure. But she couldn't bring herself to tell her fears to Naruto. She clung to the comfort of this temporary freedom, away from the suffocating atmosphere of her home. Her fingers fidgeted with the fabric of her dress as she avoided his eyes, silently praying he wouldn't press further. Despite her desire to be free, she was paralyzed by the looming dread of her father's wrath and the uncertainty of what awaited her back home. She silently pleaded that Naruto wouldn't insist on her leaving, as she wasn't ready to face the looming shadows of her reality. "If you say so, Sakura-chan, what do you want to do?" asked Naruto, hovering over her. He had never had anybody over his place before and didn't know what to do or say. This was all new to him, and like training, if he didn't know what to do he would just do what felt right. "I want you to sit down," said Sakura, patting the seat next to her. "And stop hovering over me." Taking a seat on the far end of the sofa, Naruto grinned at Sakura. He wasn't entirely sure of what she had in mind, but experience had taught him it was wise to maintain a safe distance, so the far end of the sofa seemed the safest spot for now. "Naruto, how long have you lived here?" she asked, scanning the cramped apartment. The space, or rather the room, was cluttered with trash and dirt piled up along the edges. The impressive heap of orange clothes she had pushed off the sofa made Sakura wonder how long her orange-loving teammate had resided in this place. "Gigi gave me this place after I left the orphanage, so I would say about 12 years now," replied Naruto, scratching the back of his head as he tried to calculate the years. Numbers weren't his strong suit. Anything related to school or academic work was something he actively avoided. "That is longer than my family has been in the village. We moved here about 8 years ago." "Hey, wait a minute, Gigi? I thought you said you were in an orphanage," Sakura said, her expression filled with confusion. "Oh, Gigi is the Hokage. He drops by occasionally to check on me," Naruto explained. He vividly remembered the few times the old Hokage had visited. It had only been 4 times in the last 10 years. For Naruto, that was a significant number of visits, making the old Hokage his Gigi. "The Hokage came here," said Sakura, fully doubting Naruto but knowing he wasn't one to lie. Unlike her, she just waited to see what he said. "It's been some years, but he was here, standing right in that doorway, telling me to stop leaving dog shit on people's doorways," said Naruto, grinning as he remembered how much fun it's been seeing all the old ladies screaming as they tried to put out the burning bags of dog shit. Not wanting to know what that was all about, Sakura just let it slide. Like so many things with Naruto and his strange life, she really just didn't care enough to ask. "Naruto, can you do something for me?" said Sakura, letting her head fall back on the sofa. "Anything, Sakura-chan," burst out Naruto. "Can you just sit there and do nothing? I would really like to rest," said Sakura, closing her eyes with little hope that Naruto of all people could sit still for any length of time. "Okay, Sakura-chan," said Naruto, and to her great surprise he sat there motionless as she drifted off to sleep for the first time in months, feeling a sense of security she hadn't experienced in a very long time, even in the most unlikely hiding spot within the village.